Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Interviews Playlist. Our special guest for today is Kyle. Kyle, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Kyle Stokes. I'm a second-year postdoctoral fellow at the University of Michigan in the parent lab.
Awesome. All right. So I saw that you have you have a college diploma from St. Clair College studying EMT technician. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So when I was exiting high school, I really wanted to be a firefighter. And at the time, they were talking about putting paramedics on the trucks. And back then, you didn't need a college diploma to become a firefighter. So I thought this would give me a leg up in getting hired. So I went to St. Clair College in Chatham, and my first year didn't go so well. Actually, I had some really poor study habits, so I ended up having to remediate the first year, and then I got my act together and did the second year. So it took me 3 years in total, but I passed the board exams and then was applying to services, and there weren't a lot of places hiring at the time that I graduated. So while I was waiting for more applications to open up in the areas of Canada that I was interested in, I started doing some light reading and decided I wanted to challenge myself. So I decided to go to the University of Windsor to just see if I could get a degree, because I wasn't the most studious in my high school days. So I actually got accepted to the business program. That's the only program that would accept me at the time. And then I ended up taking all of my all the first year science courses and then transferring into biology the following year. And then I just kind of enjoyed science after that and kind of worked my way into an undergraduate lab and PhD and postdoc.
Awesome. And what influenced you to choose biology in specific?
Well, think it was a couple things. So I had a girlfriend at the time that was just finishing up her undergrad in biology, and she was kind of pushing it. It was also one of the science programs that had was, at least at the University of Windsor, was the most free for you to be able to take different courses and still have them count towards your degree audit. As I think, like most people, you're interested in BCN or maybe biochemistry, or there was biotechnology at the time. But there were those the course structure was very restrictive. So biology was a good chance for me to kind of explore a lot of different topics.
Awesome. And how was your first year at university compared to your college degree?
Oh, it was tough. So the course loads in college, you usually have 4 courses that you take. They're a little bit longer, so you'll have like my anatomy and physiology, and then the patient care were 4-hour courses twice a week. But there was a lot more explanation in those courses, and then you had your practical classes too, which were less academic heavy, I suppose. Yeah, the university experience was very different because it was a lot of new material for me. So I actually dropped out of high school, my grade 12 biology class, because I was failing. And then I think I got like a 52 in grade 11 chemistry, and then didn't take grade 12 chemistry. So trying to learn all that stuff at the pace of an undergrad was pretty challenging. So that first year was rough, but it got better as I progressed through.
Awesome. And progressing through the years, second year, third year, and fourth, how did you enter into the world of research?
Yeah, so that girlfriend that I mentioned was working in Syrian Pandy's lab at the University of Windsor, who just got distinguished professor, actually. So congrats to him. So her brother was actually working in that lab, and he said that they needed an undergraduate to help out. So I started working there because I thought it'd be a good experience and more chance to learn. And I was in late first year was debating whether I would work my way up to a thesis or not. Because I heard some people talking about it and they said they liked it. So yeah, Dennis Ma, who helped me get into my research track and is kind of responsible for where I am now.
Oh, awesome. And what was the most important factor in determining whether you wanted to continue graduate studies or enter any other professional school?
Yeah, so I was, once I had started really committing to the undergraduate and like academic routes, I really did think about doing med school. And then, so I wrote the MCATs in my third year and I did poorly. And I mean, I was working during the summer and stuff, so I didn't give myself enough time to study. And I was also teaching myself physics for the first time. So there's definitely good reasons why I did bad. But I, when I finished, I thought about it and didn't really care to write it again, which I think meant to me that I didn't really care that much to be a doctor. So at least a medical one. So I was enjoying research and still figuring out kind of what I wanted to do after deciding not to go to med school. And this new professor had just gotten hired, Philip Karpovich, who just came from Harvard and was very motivated to get students and get working. And he had a really interesting research program. So I applied to his lab and that led me to my PhD.
Oh, awesome. Would you mind talking about your research that you did in your graduate study?
Sure. So during my graduate studies, I was studying circadian rhythms, specifically in the intestinal epithelium. And the way we did this was, so I guess circadian rhythms are like your body's 24-hour timing system, and all the cells in your body, or almost all of them, have an internal genetic clock that keeps you in tune with the outside world. So this helps you regulate your metabolism, sleep, feeding, immune system, all to the proper times of day to keep non-compatible processes separate and compatible processes together. And what Dr. Karpovich was studying in his postdoc was how the circadian clock regulates intestinal stem cells. And he did this mostly in flies, but had started a mouse project just before leaving. And that's the project I ended up picking up when he started at Windsor. So I was really trying to figure out, kind of piggybacking off of his previous research, is how the circadian clock might regulate intestinal regeneration in the intestine. And we did this using two models. We used mice, like I mentioned, and then we also used intestinal organoids. And organoids are a three-dimensional cell culture that allows you to recapitulate the structure and function of the intestine, but in culture format that allows you to kind of do easier manipulations. And that led to another project where we were doing circadian rhythms in intestinal cancer, which is the last publication I had in the lab just before I had graduated.
Awesome. And what are some skills that you have gained during your undergraduate thesis, which you found helpful during your PhD?
Well, I think the main thing that helped me was my cell culture experience. So the Pandy Lab does a lot of 2D cell culture. So instead of like where organoids are 3-dimension, 2D cell culture just grows on a plate or in suspension. So they don't generate as many different cell types, but the principles are the same. You have to do these media changes, and you have to make sure the cells are happy and split them as needed. Just lots of maintenance. And there's also a lot of techniques that I ended up carrying over: Western blotting, qPCR, so a lot of technical skills. But I think just your undergraduate thesis project is a really good primer for understanding how to perform science on a regular basis. So you have to be there regularly to um, work on your project of interest, and then you also have to work through problems and troubleshoot as you're going along, which during your undergraduate is very useful, that because you have multiple mentors. You have your PhD or student or your postdoc, and then also your supervisor. Whereas when you get into grad school, you have to do things a lot more on your own. So it's nice to kind of have that transition, to learn how to do things while someone is kind of helping you along, so you can
For
do it more independently once you get to your grad school.
Yeah, for sure. And having finished your PhD now, and since you're doing a postdoctoral fellowship, how is that different to your PhD?
So a postdoc is, I mean, the work is basically the same. You're doing, depending on what field you end up jumping into. So you're still doing very similar assays, experiments. Your questions are a little bit different, but um, like the scientific method stays the same. The difference is the number of projects that you're going to be handling, and then the independence of you running those projects. So where if you have a PhD, during your PhD, you'll have your supervisor kind of helps you direct the project a little bit more. I think it's very easy for graduate students to kind of, as they're reading, pick up new ideas and try to drop old projects and move around and lose focus. But that's what the PhD is kind of there to teach you, is how to see a project from beginning to end. And your postdoc then is you using those skills to run multiple projects.
Awesome. And mentorship wise, like comparing PhD to postdoctoral, so if you were to compare like your mentoring in your undergraduate students or even master's students compared to the students or even the research assistants that you are currently mentoring, how is that different?
Um, so my mentorship is like, for me being the mentor, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't think has changed too much. I guess, again, I'm getting there's a little bit more independence in my, instead of me consulting with my PhD supervisor about what exactly that student is going to be doing while they're working with me, I can kind of delegate what jobs I want them to do for the projects and kind of help them along. So I think also having a broader knowledge base is helpful for explaining things to students, and having a larger repertoire of skills makes it easier for you to train them in the different skills you need to get a particular project rolling.
Awesome. And what are some advices you would like to give to high school students, especially those who did not make their mind about what program they want to study or what career they're interested in?
Um, yeah, you don't have to rush it, I don't think. So like I mentioned earlier, I was a terrible high school student. I was focused on my athletics and my friends, and I did most of my assignments the day before they were due, and very narrowly passed many of the classes. And I was still able to end up pulling it together and kind of getting a good flow as far as getting good study habits and working with the right people, I think. So if you're not sure what you want to do, take a gap year. I don't know, do some reading on your own in that time, or go travel, figure out what you want to do, meet new people. If you don't want to go that route, take something at the college level. And if that's just something that might interest you, it can be a year program. I had a friend that did botany for a year. I had a friend that did business and then moved into the history at the university. So like, just, I don't know, find something. If you don't like it, move on. If you do like it and you want to continue. If you are happy working, I don't know, and just doing odd jobs and just making enough money that you can go do the things that you like to do and do that. It's life is kind of up to you after high school. So do it your way.
Awesome. Thank you for those insights and thank you for being a guest speaker on my channel.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.